In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.
I'm Bill Dries with the Daily Memphian. We record this on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024. Our guest is former Shelby County Commissioner Tami Sawyer, who is the Democratic nominee for General Sessions Court Clerk on the August 1st ballot. Early voting starts on July the 12th, and this podcast is part of a series of articles on the races on that very important ballot. This is On the Record. In the March primaries, Commissioner Sawyer, you beat incumbent Clerk Joe Brown. What got you back into politics after serving a term on the county commission, and why a clerk after being one of 13 on the commission?
Well, first, thank you again for having me, Bill. And I talk about this a lot on the campaign trail, and I'm pretty open about it in social media. It's no secret that I lost my mother in the last year of my commission term to cancer. And I was also with my brother and dad, her caretaker. And so that was a huge loss for our family. My mom and I were very, very close. And I just needed to step away. My mother was born and raised in Memphis. I was involved in politics and activism because of her. She was part of the Memphis State 109. And a lot of my identity as who I am as a Black woman is tied up in my mom. And so I took a year, I traveled. I lived in LA for a bit. I lived in DC for a bit. And while I was gone, I just kept paying attention to Memphis. I was in DC and there was a mayor's race happening. Mayor Muriel Bowser was running for re-election, and I was keeping track of who, I'm having conversations in DC with folks who are about to pull petitions for the mayor's race here. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what am I doing? And I literally got home the day of the Memphis for All debate at First Congo. And I knew I drove nonstop from DC to Memphis and parked my Jeep outside the church full of stuff and came inside for the debate. And I was like, this is where I belong. I care about this city. I care about our home. I care about the people. And I believe politics is the work that I'm meant to do. And that's why I'm back.
Right. Right. So let me get this straight. You get in town and you drive directly over to First Congo for a mayoral debate.
Pretty much. I mean, people were like, I thought you were in DC. I mean, folks hadn't seen me in almost a year, and I just like pop up in the back. I felt bad for a second because there was a little like, I won't say skirmish, but there was a disturbance. It was like, wait, what are you doing here? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But just being there and listening and paying attention. Then I started, I tried to give you a run for your money. I tried to be an independent journalist for a little bit. Not even that was enjoyable, but and I love talking politics. I love looking at the numbers. I love talking about the issues, but I love making change even more. And that's how I ended up, back in the running. The clerk's race came up because for folks who don't know, the Shelby County Election Commission sends an email to any interested party when people pull a petition. And the incumbent Clerk Joe Brown pulled a petition for the seat. And I was like, what's happening? And I remember being a commissioner, and there were several clerks who we knew weren't doing their job, whether it was due to illness, or something else. But they were allowed to stay in office. And, I felt like with what is going on with crime, what was going on with court backlogs, and then also the fact that on the civil division side, there's a lot of community outreach that can happen and wasn't happening, especially with expungements, which is I've done a lot of work with like fines and fees and expungements. that this was an opportunity for me. And you asked about one of 13. Being one of 13 is hard, and I'm a very outspoken person. So I was like, well, I can go do some work
Mhm.
and not have to, get 12 people to agree with me all the time.
Or at least six others. Yeah.
Yeah. And so while, I will have to work with the judges and the judicial commissioners, I'm really excited about the community outreach work that I'll be able to do if I win, in this role.
Mhm. So this actually came up in the March primary. Uh, and the question is the clerk's office and how it is run connected to the backlog that we've seen of criminal cases that has prompted so much of the discussion recently about the city's larger or the county's larger criminal justice system? Because as you know, Joe Brown, the incumbent clerk, he said it wasn't, that the backlog was what was further down the line. So does whoever wins this race have to go in there and deal with the backlog problem as clerk?
I think, it's a system, right? It's a cog in the wheel. And this is not the largest cog in the wheel, but the operations of the clerk's office are a part of the backlog. It's not the sole answer. There are, 15 divisions, 15 courtrooms that the clerk is responsible for staffing and ensuring operate well. And, so one of my biggest campaign issues has been improving technology. We did a test run where someone went to file a case and they were handed a piece of paper, handwritten, and it said, the only thing printed on there, it said, call this number in 2 weeks to see if your case has been filed. And so just simple process improvement and technology improvement can help cases get to the judges quicker. And even then help them get to, the courtroom, get through the process in the courtrooms quicker, not losing dockets, not misplacing information, cases having to be reset because things aren't organized. Those are all things that we've found from an informal audit. On the flip side, the county's official fiscal audit showed that there were several issues related to backlog with fines and fees. And one of those is that when someone pays a fee, that fee goes to several different divisions of Shelby County government. Some of the money goes to the sheriff's office, some of the money goes to the judge's courtroom costs, some of the money goes to the county. And similar to, other issues that we've seen in the county, those dollars, we are looking at a backlog of several years of those dollars being disseminated to the right division. So the judges are owed money, the sheriff and the jails are owed money, the county government bank account is owed money, because there were not processes and organization and technology employed, and these 200 employees did not have a leader who was organizing their work in the way that the county could run efficiently. And that's what is helping the backlogs continue.
So if you win this office, what happens when you take office? Is there a lot of turnover? Do you have to have a lot of the people who are there now who know the system and how it works? And from what you've just said, how to fix these problems?
It's a delicate balance. As I mentioned, I think currently about 200 people are employed, about 17, 18 people are appointed. So of those, 200 people, 190 are able to, I wouldn't fire them. I can't fire them. They're civil employees. My work with them from day one is to build trust. Anyone who walked into the clerk's office right now would have a conversation with employees, and they'll realize morale is low because leadership has been lacking for the last 4 years. And so what they need is a present clerk, someone who's there every day working alongside them to improve the services. So for me, day one is being present. they see me now because I work at the county now, but seeing me working alongside them to improve the work of the clerk's office, I think is going to be very imperative. So improving morale while also working right away to improve processes. But I can't go in, and I've said this in activism, Bill, you can't tell people in situations what they need. And so like in my first 100 days, my goal is to meet with all, almost 200 employees and say, what do you need to do your job better, before I come in and say, hey, we're using Adobe every day and you're going to use red ink,
Mhm.
like let's take 100 days to evaluate and then implement. So I have 100-day goals of building morale and trust, and I have a 1-year goal of people starting to be able to see in that first year change in our operations and processes. And I look at our stakeholders as the judges. I want the judges to look up in a year and say, things are moving much smoother over there. I want the judicial commissioners to say the same. And also I want the customers, especially like on the civil side, the folks who are coming in for environmental cases, the folks who are coming in, who are facing eviction, all of those things to come in and feel like they're being treated like customers in very difficult situations. As far as the appointed positions, those conversations are, going to have to be had. It's 30 days between the election and the first day of office. So it'll be a very quick turnover in appointed positions. My hope is that we don't start from scratch, because this is such a huge division that we will need folks who have been embedded and have that corporate knowledge, that organizational knowledge on our team in leadership.
And the commission, the county commission, I believe, just recently approved starting to put in motion, is it a new online filing system for the office?
So a new online filing system, and also what is called ERP.
Mhm.
Um, and ERP is countywide. So this position is being elected at a perfect time because we are doing a county government-wide system refresh update that will align all of our systems and make them speak to each other. And the director of IT, Director Sandra Perry, is leading that, and each division has liaisons to that work. So I'm excited that we are coming on at a time when the county is starting this technology improvement process, because as I said, technology is a huge part of my platform. It's 2024, we're headed into 2025. My feelings about Elon Musk aside, we are heading into AI,
Mhm.
like, we shouldn't be handwriting receipts to people, heading in fiscal year 2025. People shouldn't be letting me know that they called to file, a case and they can't get anyone on the phone. I've had attorneys reach out to me and say that the orders of protection that they file through the criminal division aren't getting handled quickly enough because the phone system is always down to file them, right? Like these are things that I'm like, the phone system, I don't call people like,
Mhm.
so like, why are we doing this like this? And so I'm really excited that there is a deep investment from the county through the commissioners and Mayor Harris for technology improvement that we can align with. You asked about positions. I'm really excited. Like in my draft org chart, I would like for us to have a operations person who does outreach for us to get grants from the federal government and nonprofits for technology improvement, because we know that we are in a tough time financially, right? Budget season for the city, for the county, for the state, everything. I mean, even the school board, it's tight, right? The ARPA dollars, the COVID dollars are gone. And so what I'm looking for is, hey, there are dollars earmarked to improve courts, to improve technology through grants. And so one of the positions I have, I want them to spend about 10-15% of their time applying for, coordinating and making sure that we are compliant with getting dollars that we can add to the county budget used to improve the clerk's office and the courts.
Okay. Um, Democrats have swept every countywide office, as you know, well in the 2018 elections when you were elected to the commission, and then the 2022 elections. So is this race about D's and R's, so to speak, or is it different since it's the only countywide race on the ballot for this election cycle?
I think we're in a time where you can't, it's not a nonpartisan election. I had to run very hard, as you mentioned at the beginning, to beat an incumbent. That's rare. It's very hard to beat an incumbent. As you know, I've tried twice. You know? Third time's the charm. But, sorry, listeners. I can be funny, but no, and so we ran very hard in the primary, and we ran as a Democrat. I am a Democrat, and so this is about D's and R's. I'm not gonna violate the age-old rule, don't talk about your opponent, but I will say that Republicans are currently using this seat, and actually me and my history of activism, to rile up ours and say, hey, look, here's a countywide seat that we can get because that radical activist Tami Sawyer, is running for this position. What I am hoping that people hear, Democrats or Republicans, especially like in opportunities like this podcast, is that I have a very technical and advanced background in corporate and nonprofit organizations, leadership positions, like the things that I'm talking about, the process change that, I want to see happen are things that come from experience of being part of a leadership team. And so what I am envisioning is coming in and being a strong leader for the county in a court system that is currently struggling to serve the county's needs due to the rise in crime, due to continued poverty, due to a lack of technology. And the relationships that I already have as former commissioner will serve me day one, Democrat and Republican. I have Republican counterparts who have, former commissioners who have said to me, like, I think you're going to go in there and do great things. They can't say that on the record, unfortunately, but they believe because they know they know my background. They know this isn't something that I'm just like, oh, let me run for anything. And so unfortunately it became a D versus R race with the insertion of statewide politics. But I'm hoping that what people are going to listen to is that I am the person, with experience. I spent a year working for Amazon in senior leadership. I spent almost 10 years with Teach for America in senior leadership, corporate leadership. I spent 5 years working for the United States Navy. And during that time, I led a team in ERP technology refresh, as well as human capital and human resources work. So while people know me for my activism and taking down 901 and being outspoken about racial equity, at the same time, I've always been a person who's worked hard. I have a master's degree. And none of that's related to me being a Democrat or a Republican. I'm the person who is qualified and ready on day one to take this job.
Given that this clerk's office and most of the clerk's offices, countywide and city court clerk, I guess you could throw in there too. The average voter, unless they have a matter in court, they probably don't know a lot about these offices. So I'm just wondering, when you combine that with a partisan race, do you think that given the times we live in, that people go in there and say, oh, here's the R candidate, here's the D candidate, and use that as their basis for making the choice?
Absolutely. I mean, there's not a long answer to that. Unfortunately, that is the reality. Which is why I'm leaning into, like, I am the Democratic nominee. This is mostly a primary election season. The August ballot is all primary elections except for our race.
And the school board races.
And the school board races, right. But they're nonpartisan. And so, like, we're the only nominees. I think, most people are just going to click Democrat. or they're going to vote by name recognition, and my name recognition is very high, for better or worse. And so we're going to lean into better. And, but I do think also one of the reasons I've spent even so much time, I'm sure you're like, there goes Tami just talking. Like, one of the reasons I spent so much time, being expressive in this conversation, is because I do want people to know what's behind the work. I don't want people to just be like, oh, here's another person running for a clerk seat that's not going to do anything or doesn't understand their role. I deeply understand this position and the change that can be made with it, which is why I was like, this is something I want to do, because no one's been doing this work, even though people were elected to do it. Also in my social media, I have, I make a lot of videos, and, some of the videos are just funny quips, but some of them are educational. It was Representative Justin Pearson who in the March primary said to me, hey, make some videos letting people know what this office does. And so I made a series of videos, like what is a General Sessions Court Clerk? Because I'll be honest, understanding like my notoriety and my social media, following, nobody was talking General Sessions Court Clerk before March, And so I have to be like, hey, y'all, this is what I'm doing and why. And so I want to educate people, not just be like, vote for me because you like me. I'm like, vote for me because this is the work that can be done in this. So I'm hopeful that there are going to be educated people, voters who feel educated about the race, but I do know that there are going to be people who are just going to be like, I'm voting for the D or I'm voting for the R.
All right. That's where we'll leave it. Election day is August 1st. Early voting is July 12th through the 27th. We have been talking with Democratic nominee for General Sessions Court Clerk Tami Sawyer. As part of our coverage of the upcoming election, you can find at dailymemphian.com, along with a podcast interview of Republican nominee Lisa Arnold. I'm Bill Dries. This has been On the Record.